What a headshot! What a head!
How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. And in this video, I'm going to bring you guys the team selection for the upcoming Game Week 10. Now, I won't be focusing on Game Week 9, the preceding game week, like I usually do in these team selections. And the reason for that is that I did make a really in-depth video covering Game Week 9 yesterday, so go check that video out if you guys haven't. It's actually quite an entertaining video if you guys don't know what happened with my own specific team. But in this video, I'm just going to be focusing on Game Week 10, as I said. So starting off, I'm going to be going over my transfer thoughts as well as some injury updates on some notable options that have unfortunately been injured either in Game Week 9 or in this midweek. And I'll be giving you guys the updates on those certain players up until the video has been released. So you guys don't really have to worry about this video being outdated or any of that stuff. I then will be focusing on the actual team selection, the captaincy, all that good stuff, going to the Game Week 10 deadline, which fortunately enough is going to be back to the usual Saturday morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you guys are around the world. So that's something you guys are interested in. Sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So before we get on to the injury news and the kind of transfer plan for the upcoming Game Week 10, I want to give you guys a reminder about the League Cup. Now, there were fixtures that happened last night. I think Arsenal played as well as Chelsea, Leeds, those sort of teams. And there were a couple of injuries that actually came out of those fixtures. Not only in those specific games did players get injured, but we also were given some updates on a player like Rafinha, who has now been cleared to probably play, or at least be also certain that he should be fine for the upcoming Game Week 10 against Norwich, which is obviously a great fixture to kind of go by. But we'll also be getting some updates tonight. There are a couple more teams, or at least Premier League teams, playing tonight, so just stay tuned for those news. And obviously, if you do have players starting tonight, just make sure that they come out of those games uninjured and ready to go for Game Week 10. It is quite an early stage of the League Cup, and also the League Cup, I guess, isn't really taken that seriously by Premier League teams. So there might be an expectation for a team like Liverpool to play a second string or maybe some younger players. So I don't think you guys have to focus too much on it, but maybe what I'll do is maybe tomorrow, or maybe just focus on the press conferences coming up on Thursday and Friday to get the latest news as possible for this upcoming game week. But now going on to my transfer plan, and to be honest, for Game Week 10, I'm going to say this right off the bat, I really do want to bank a transfer. And the reason for that is I think my starting 11 on paper looks strong enough, and I wanted to kind of bank some transfers as I've been taking a couple of hits over these past couple of game weeks. So a little bit of normality back into the side in terms of the transfer plan, and at least then in Game Week 11, we can take those two transfers and maybe switch the funds out of the defensive department. As you guys know, I do already have a big at the back, or a back five that are relatively strong, and I might want to get some budget out of there to bring in a budget option, as there are some nicer fixtures coming up for some more budget teams. But the three players in my own personal team, and you guys might have these players as well, the three options that are currently yellow flagged are going to be Jamie Vardy, Mbeumo, and then also Azpilicueta. So first with Azpilicueta, I think Azpi will be fine for Game Week 10. Tuchel came out last night and said that he did miss that League Cup fixture due to kind of picking up a shoulder injury in training, but he is expecting him to be back for the Newcastle game on the weekend. So I'm fairly confident that Azpilicueta will be fine for that Norwich game on the weekend, but the other two options are a little bit more spicy. Jamie Vardy came off with an apparent knee injury half-time of that Brentford fixture in Game Week 9, and he does look like he might be missing the upcoming game week. Now, Leicester are playing tonight, so maybe wait for Brendan Rodgers to come out and say, I think that Jamie Vardy will definitely miss tonight's fixture, but maybe Rodgers after the game will tell us a little bit of an update on Jamie Vardy, and hopefully we'll be back for that fixture on the weekend. Now, with Mbeumo, it is a hamstring injury, and to be honest, over the past couple seasons, when I've seen a hamstring injury, usually the player doesn't make it back that soon, so I'm a little bit worried about Mbeumo, and I think that he might also miss this upcoming game week 10, and that's a little bit of a miss because Brentford have a lovely fixture coming up. But I mean, we can have some hope there. Maybe the Brentford manager comes out in the press conference tomorrow on Friday and tells us that Mbeumo has recovered from it, but I'm not really holding too many thumbs on that one. I think that he probably might miss Game Week 10. So out of these three options though, in terms of downgrading them, transferring them out, I don't have that much money in the bank. So with Azpilicueta, if he is going to miss Game Week 10, that'll be an easy downgrade to a player like a Chilwell, who I really do want to bring in. But with Mbeumo, I wanted to upgrade him to maybe someone else like a Rafinha, but I don't have the money for it, so I would have to downgrade him, and downgrading him to another option doesn't look too great in Game Week 10. Jamie Vardy, obviously, if he is going to miss a Game Week 10, I could always take him out, but the tough thing is that Leicester have some nice fixtures coming up, so I could move him to a player like a Tony, but I would also maybe just bench him and play a Townsend that I do still have on my bench. So as I mentioned at the start of this talking point, my goal is to bank a transfer, but if one of these players does end up being injured and out of Game Week 10, we might have to switch them on to another option. But now going on to our team selection for the upcoming Game Week 10, and yet again, we're staring down the barrel of a big at the back 5 formation, but luckily, the fixtures from a defensive point of view look really good for Game Week 10. So I'm going to start off with the bench because we do have a first kind of bench notable decision being made. I am going to be playing Ben Foster over Sanchez just because Ben Foster plays Southampton at home. Southampton have been struggling a little bit from an attacking point of view. I know they did have quite a good game against Burnley in Game Week 9. But I mean, Burnley's defense has not been great, and at least Watford might get more of a chance of a clean sheet than Sanchez does against Liverpool. Now we could use the logic of last game week 9, where we did play Sanchez over Foster, even though Sanchez did play against Man City. But I just think this might be one of those game weeks. I'm captaining Mo Salah, as you guys can see, so I'm expecting Brighton to concede, and I think there might actually be a chance of Watford keeping a clean sheet in this one. The rest of the 3 players on my bench, I've gone for Townsend because against Wolves have also been a little bit sure at the back from a defensive point of view. So I think that this might be quite a tough game for Everton. However, Everton are really going to want to bounce back after that kind of shocker defeat to Watford, where they conceded quite a few goals in the dying seconds. So in terms of Townsend, not really favouring him too much, as I don't think there's going to be too many returns for him in this one. But he can always come off my bench if one of my defenders or one of my outfielders don't feature. Adam Armstrong did start in the League Cup game for Southampton last night against Chelsea, but I really don't think he's favoured in terms of that starting 11. I think that he's completely lost his spot. Didn't even come off the bench. I think he came off the bench in the last minute on the weekend, even though they needed a goal in the dying seconds. So I don't really think Adam Armstrong is anywhere near the starting 11. And although they do face Watford, which is quite a good fixture on paper, I think that Armstrong won't start at all. So I don't really want to risk playing him and then him coming off the bench. And the final player on our bench, Douglas Luiz, always say that he's going to be third on our bench most game weeks at a 4.5, just kind of a budget enabler that we have here. But if he does have to come off, maybe he can get some returns, even though Villa's fixture isn't that great. But now going on to the starting 11, really kind of touched on Foster, so won't talk about him. But going on to that back 5, and as I mentioned in the introduction, really good fixtures from a defensive point of view. The only player that we have a slight concern about is going to be Azpilicueta. Currently is yellow flagged, but I'm expecting him to be back. But then we also have Reece James, who started last night in the League Cup, and with Rudiger, Thiago Silva on the bench, I don't really know if Reece James is going to play on the weekend, but I really do hope that he does. Because from an attacking point of view, showed us on the weekend and Game Week 9 against Norwich how good of an attacker he can be in that fullback slot. So I really do hope that he starts, because I do think that Newcastle is a good fixture as well. So I mean, between Azpilicueta and Reece James, maybe one of them will start and hopefully the other doesn't come off the bench. We then have our 2 Man City assets, Cancelo and Diaz. Now both of these might start, might not. That's yet to be seen. Maybe I kind of monitor the game tonight. If Cancelo and Diaz play tonight, then we might have a little bit of concern about them on the weekend. At Crystal Palace, this should be an easy fixture on paper, but Crystal Palace's attacking form has actually been quite strong at the moment. But I do think that Man City have enough to kind of keep them and keep that clean sheet. Hopefully they don't concede a penalty like they did against Brighton, because I don't think that Brighton did too much from an attacking point of view, but they still managed to lose the clean sheet against them. So against Crystal Palace, I'm really hoping for double up, kind of repay my patience that I've had in these 2 assets, as most people only own 1. I really do hope that Cancelo does get benched, because he's played a couple of games in a row now, and I also hope that Diaz might get some rest, even though he was rested in that previous Premier League game, I think Game Week 8. Then the final defender to go over is going to be Trent Alexander-Arnold with a nice fixture against Brighton. I don't really know with Liverpool, they always seem to do well against Brighton. And if memory serves me right, in a previous game, Virgil van Dijk scored 2 goals against them from set pieces. Maybe Trent can get a couple of assists off some set pieces. That'll always be welcomed. But I do think that there is a chance that Liverpool do keep a clean sheet, because Brighton are one of those weird sides. The XG always looks high, but sometimes the scoring chances aren't that great. Going on to our midfield apartment, the 2 players that I'm really excited about is firstly going to be Mo Salah, just kind of continuing his great form that he's been in. I will be captaining him, so no, I won't be going for a Kai Havertz. This decision might change come that deadline, but I'm pretty sure I've been scarred from Game Week 9, and the armband will be firmly on Mo Salah's arm for Game Week 10. I just think great fixture coming up, no excuses there. I can't really blame the United game, kind of a tough rivalry. I'm expecting Liverpool to do quite well against Brighton, and that's why the armband will be on the Egyptian international. With Kai Havertz, although I do think it's a great fixture and I don't think he'll start. Someone actually asked me on Twitter last night about, although Kai Havertz did start in the League Cup, what are my expectations from him on the weekend? And I do think that Kai Havertz will play against Newcastle, and you guys just have to go look at their bench that they had last night. They didn't even have a winger or a forward on the bench, so I think that Kai Havertz's place is firmly in that starting 11 unless Timo Werner or Romelu Lukaku do make a comeback from their injuries. The last player that we are going to be fielding in our midfield is going to be Mbeumo from Brentford. Great fixture coming up. Just kind of hope that he recovers from that hamstring injury. If he doesn't, I'm going to just kind of assess how many weeks he's going to be out, as I can always just play Townsend as his replacement for Game Week 10. Burnley is a great fixture on paper. Brentford also from an attacking point of view are creating a load of chances, and I think they are favourites to beat Burnley in this one, and that's why I really do want Mbeumo to be back from injury because it's just such a good fixture on paper. And the final two options from a forward department is going to be Jamie Vardy. Now I really do hope that Jamie Vardy manages to recover from that injury, as I do expect him to score against Arsenal. I think he has a really good scoring record against Arsenal. I think against the top 6 sides, inverted commas, he has one of the best scoring records, so I really do hope that he manages to recover from this injury, but I am expecting him to, and therefore I do think he could do particularly well against that Arsenal side at home. Leicester also from an attacking point of view have been quite strong, and although Jamie Vardy didn't play that second half of the Brentford game, I do think he is getting some chances going forward, and his shots in the box are looking quite respectable. And the final player in our starting 11 is going to be Antonio versus Aston Villa side that has actually conceded a couple goals in the past couple game weeks. And I think Antonio, although his form is not looking that strong, did score against our rivals Spurs. So I do think the confidence is going to be there. And against the Aston Villa side, as I mentioned, that is not looking that great defensively, I do have some hope for Antonio to get some attacking returns. So overall, our starting 11 and our team for Game Week 10 is actually looking quite good, apart from these yellow flags. If these yellow flags can disappear, I think the starting 11 looks absolutely superb, and I really do hope that the back 5 can return some hauls this game week. But this is basically wrap up the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like it if you did, and subscribe if you have not subscribed yet. I'll be seeing you guys for the ultimate guide tomorrow, so make sure to drop your comments or your talking points down below, and I'll be sure to cover them in tomorrow's video. I'm signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.